Hello, this is Nancy Ray, your host for the Rebel Haven podcast, a show designed to inspire, educate, and empower our community of entrepreneurs that think differently. For as in the words of the great and late Steve Jobs, the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
I have a dream that one day
it's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Rebel Haven podcast. This is your host, Nancy Ray Allen, and today we're going to be talking about boundaries. Yes, I talk about this a lot. I've talked about this before, but it's coming back. We get to talk about it again. So right now, for those of you who follow me on social media, we're talking a lot about the 1212 portal that's going to be happening this month of December. If you haven't seen my live I did about that, go to Facebook and check that out. I'm talking all about the energy and the significance and the different things that are going to be happening right now. And it's just important that we're in the know and we're aware. It makes it so much easier to work with the energies and to harness what's going on when we're in the know. So let's talk about boundaries today. Boundaries are the key to living the life that it is that you really want. Whatever it is that you're tolerating, that low minimum, that's what you're going to get. That standard is what you will have in your life. So if you have a standard that no one's ever going to hit you in your relationship, you will never be with somebody that hits you in a relationship. Why? Because if they did, you would be gone. You would be gone. Regardless of when that happened in the relationship, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, that would be a no-no. When we find ourselves in these predicaments or these situations where we're being abused or a friendship that's taking advantage of us or a boss that's taking advantage of us, it's because somewhere along the line, we let that slip. And what we really want, instead of being a requirement, became a wish or a hope or a silly request. Whatever it is that you require to be in your life, that is what you will get. So if it's a bare minimum requirement that no one will ever physically hit you, you will never, ever have that. But if it's a wish, a request, a hope, a dream, there's no one out there that's like, you know what? Well, I can't say no one. But the majority of us, right, we don't want to be in a relationship where being smacked around physically, obviously. But where we're moving to right now on the planet is where energy is becoming our focus. So you're not just being held accountable and responsible for the things that you're saying and doing. You're actually going to be held accountable for the energy that you're bringing and contributing to an environment, to a relationship, and to the planet. And this is bringing us to a whole new layer and level of responsibility. And that's what we get to understand. As we ascend and as we move to these new spaces, there's new energetic standards, there's new energetic responsibilities. With great power comes great responsibility. And as we become more and more awake and more aware, we're going to be held to a different standard, a higher standard of living, of being, of interacting, where we are being seen more fully. We're moving to a place on the planet where everything is so transparent. You can see, feel, and know what people are thinking, the energy that they're sending. We're not going to be able to hide any of that anymore, which means when we have those energies come up, it's going to be an opportunity through the mirror of other people seeing that in us to look at it, address it, heal it, and transmute it. So today we're going to be talking about boundaries because they're the thing. Anytime you're wanting to up level into a different standard of living, like quality of living or income or relationship or even in your body, there's different level of boundaries of what you're going to allow to be in your space, energetically or physically. So what I want to address in this also is the idea of whose responsibility are your boundaries. So often when we're in relationship and there's people that we love around us, we often put the burden of enforcing our boundaries on the people around us. We may communicate them, hey, I'd really like you to, not park in my driveway when you come over to my house. And we express that, we say that that's what we want, but then we actually often slough off the responsibility of enforcing our boundaries on other people. Why? Because enforcing boundaries is shitty. It fucking sucks. You get to be the bad guy. You get to face disappointing other people. You get to face their own triggers and their own upset about your boundary. And so we don't want to do it. And in an ideal world, I guess the ego's ideal world, we never would have to enforce any sort of boundary, would never have to hold anybody accountable for anything. Everyone would just take their own responsibility and accountability, and we would never have to enforce or hold any boundaries. That's what we can often be deluded into thinking that we really want. But real growth happens and real expansion happens when we get to stand up for and fight for what it is that we want and what it is that we require in our space. And the biggest test of that is with the people that we love. Oftentimes people are really great holding boundaries out and about in the world, at the grocery store, when you're driving and it's not somebody that you know. It's when it's somebody that you know and love that you're like, fuck, I let them walk all over me. There's no one I let walk all over me like I let my kids walk all over me. Shit. Because they're adorable and I've got the mom guilt and I've got all of that stuff going on, right? So it's easy to let that happen. And what we get to do right now is we just get to take a look at everywhere in our energetic field that we are susceptible of allowing guilt and obligation and story to hijack us from really creating what it is that we really want, how it is that we really want to feel. And realize that when we do that, we stop blaming people. We actually take our power back when we decide we're the ones that enforce our boundaries. We're no longer the victim. We're no longer blaming other people for taking our power away. We're actually giving them our power when we want them to enforce our boundaries. So what that looks like is, hey, when you come over, I'd like you to not park in the driveway. Please park on the road. They keep coming over and not doing that. And it doesn't mean you become a nag. Oh, I'd really like you next time to please park on the street. No, there is no next time. There is, look, you can move your car and park it on the street, or you can get the fuck out. And you don't need to be mean about it. I'm obviously just being extreme to just like really get across the feeling of what a boundary is like. The boundary means there's immediately a consequence to that enforces that. So you can't actually be in my home if you're not going to honor it, that I want you to park on the fucking street, man. Just do it. And yeah, maybe they forget. Maybe it's not a big deal to them. Who knows what's going on? That's their story. But it is your job to enforce. It's your job. It's your responsibility to enforce the boundary it is that you have with an actual consequence. You don't just keep saying it over and over again, right? Your kids come in, they take their shoes off, and they leave them all over the entryway. And so you're tripping over them and all of that stuff. If every time you just say, hey, put your shoes where they go, and you're just nagging, you're just a big old pain in the ass nag that's letting people walk all over them. But you think you're not. That's the thing, is because you voiced it, because you've said it, because you've whatever you've done, you have like checked off some weird box in your mind that makes you think that you're actually enforcing a boundary and that you've actually asked for what you want, but you haven't. You haven't enforced anything. All you've done is bitch and complain. It's the adult version of whining. The adult version of whining is telling somebody to hold a boundary repeatedly, but never requiring it of them. And it's time for us to all mature and level up in the area of boundaries and recognize and realize that we have full permission to ask for what it is that we really want inside our space, inside our own little world of creation. Now, I'm not going to go over to my neighbor's house and say, hey, I have a boundary that when I look over here at your house, your lawn looks a certain way. Fuck no, that's way outside of my domain. We each have our own little life, our own little world that it is that we're creating. Now, the truth is, if I want to look across the street and see my neighbor's house looking a certain way, then I might get to fucking move if that's my boundary, because I cannot actually control what it is they're doing. I can't control somebody parking in my driveway or not. But what I can do is I can disinvite them from being there. I can say, you get to get off my property. You're trespassing. You can't be here. If it needed to get to that level of extremeness. Now, the truth is, nobody wants to be a bitch. And when we're right here riding the cutting edge of consciousness, we want to be nice. We want people to like us. We want the oneness, the love, the peace, like all the hippie vibes. Like that's what we want in our life. And so oftentimes we get into that space of spiritual disempowerment where we're like, oh, I'm going to be the nice guy. And I'm like, actually, what you are is a fucking rug. You're not a nice guy. You're a pushover. And the truth is, when you're not enforcing healthy boundaries, you are enabling everybody else's destructive, mean, manipulative, unthoughtful behavior. Parking in someone's driveway when they've asked you not to, that's called being a douchebag, man. That's an asshole behavior. They asked you not to. And sure, maybe you forgot, whatever the fuck. The boundary is the boundary is the boundary, and that's fine. And you get to give yourself permission to allow your preferences to be okay. And I'm not asking you to be unreasonable or unyielding or to go out there and be a jerk about enforcing your boundaries. But so often the people who are listening to me are the people who need to grow a little bit of a tougher skin and be a little bit more of an asshole. You're so busy being nice and kissing everyone's ass because you are aware and you can see all sides and you are so loving and you're so connected and you want all of that you actually swing the pendulum so far over to the other side of being an enabling, disempowered cuddle bug. You're just all love. And I want you to be all love, but there's this thing you've heard, it's called tough love. And the truth is, if you're not loving and honoring yourself, you're actually dishonoring and not loving other people. It's just the facts. And this is like the unsexy, not fun side of being here on the cutting edge of consciousness and wanting to help wake up the planet, is we get to realize that boundaries are an incredibly healthy thing and they're okay. And everybody's boundaries look a little bit different, and that's also okay. And we get to be in a place of honoring people's preferences and boundaries. And, maybe some of you listening to this are a little bit of a hard ass. And you've had such a hard level of boundary that you have no one and nothing in your life because you have this crazy air of perfectionism that you're trying to force onto people around you. And again, that's just bullshit too. That's just your way of guarding and protecting yourself because you're afraid of genuine connection. So feel into that. If me saying all that pinged you, maybe you should message me and we should work on you being a little bit less of a rigid asshole, okay? And if everything else is pinging you, that you've just been too soft, and it could be all over the spectrum. There could be areas where you're being an asshole and there's areas where you're being just a rug. And that's okay. I want you to feel that it's all okay. It's all love. It's all for our good. It's all for learning and growth. It's all for our awareness. But I'm telling you, it's way more fun in the middle. The middle path is way more fun where you're soft and hard and you know how to flow in and out of those energies of flexibility and allowance, and in and out of those energies of this is the line and this is how I will be treated. This is the energy that's allowed in my home. And this is how you get to honor my boundaries. When I ask you to please put your shoes where they go, you get to do that. And if you don't do that, this is the consequence, or this is the boundary, or this is how it's going to be enforced, right? And so, this is such a great conversation. The next thing we get to talk about is we get to talk about other people's boundaries and whose job they are. So for those of you who are here, you're empathic, you're spiritual, you're aware, you can feel and see and sense what people want and what they need. And oftentimes you can get into a little bit of a codependent pattern of trying to monitor other people's boundaries. Oh, I can see and feel and sense that this makes them uncomfortable. So I'm going to step up and I'm going to try to guess or assume their boundary for them because I don't know. And in that case, what ends up manifesting is a lot of walking on eggshells around people, not being yourself, modulating, being a chameleon because of that fear. Now, I'm talking about swinging the pendulum way over. The middle path is one where you're just, socially aware. Right? Like you go to your grandma's house, she doesn't want you to say fuck, so don't say it, right? Just be intuitive of that. She doesn't want you to say fuck, and you not saying fuck isn't you not being yourself. But I'm talking about swinging it so far to the other side where you're constantly chameleonizing yourself and putting your desires and preferences and personalities completely on the back burner because you're so afraid of offending somebody or hurting somebody else's feelings. The truth is other people's boundaries are, you guessed it, their responsibility. Your boundaries, your responsibility. Their boundaries, their responsibility. So if you be intentional, be aware, be in the moment, obviously don't run around belligerently, ignorantly, half asleep, offending and being a total douchebag. Of course. Yeah. And also don't be so hyper active and nervous and over functioning that you're going to offend somebody. Don't do that because that is actually going to water you down. That's going to dim your light because you're operating in this fear of what they're going to think. So go about, be aware, be open, be real with people, be authentic. And if somebody doesn't like you parking in their driveway, they can tell you. And you're like, they don't like it? I'll just move it. I'll just park it on the street. It's no big deal. It's no sweat off my ball sack. It's so inappropriate. I just needed to say it. I needed to say something. So you're welcome for that. Hope that gave you a little chuckle. Very inappropriate. If you're offended, listen to someone else's podcast. So basically, your boundaries are your responsibility and so are other people's. If someone has an issue with you or something that you're doing, they get to voice that. They get to bring that up to you. They get to start that conversation. Now, if from an intuitive standpoint, you can feel something's off, sure, be yourself. Vocalize that. Say, hey, is everything okay? How are you feeling? I'm feeling something off. Great. Do that. Open up the dialogue. Sometimes people just need, they just need the conversation started to really get there for sure. Do that. But also don't live your life in this anxiety of where you have to rush around trying to manage everybody else's feelings all of the time and everybody else's boundaries all of the time. Let all of that go. Get back into the present moment, get back into your body, be you, do you, be intuitive. If you trample someone else's boundaries and they, request that be adjusted, fucking honor it, man. Do that. That feels good to do. But don't run around in fear all of the time that you are going to be offending or hurting somebody else. And also, you really get to release the fear of what other people think when you're enforcing your boundary. So much as this is driven by the fear of being abandoned, the fear of being alone, the fear of being kicked out of the tribe. That's what drives so much of this. And it's around your worthiness. And the truth is, when it comes to this topic of worthiness, it's just so laughable to me because it's not even a thing. It doesn't even exist. Worthiness is something that's based on some sort of system. Anytime someone's like, am I worthy or am I not? I'm like, what system are you using to determine that? What scale, what measurement, whatever. And depending on what system and what scale you're using is going to determine relatively how worthy it is that you are. I mean, who are you comparing yourself to? What's the system? That's not even a thing. People who have abundance, love, joy, peace, an environment that feels safe and is the energy that they want, they're no more worthy or less worthy or any of the fuck of that stuff than anybody else. They just have decided that this is what I want, and so this is what I'm going to have because it's what I want. And they make that a requirement that they have those things. So right now where we are, whenever you're listening to this is all still applying for sure. But especially right now at the time of this recording, we are in the thick of holiday season where a lot of people are being around a lot of family and friends and going to a lot of socially obligated things and buying presents and doing shit that they maybe don't want to do. And the truth is, this is the time to really fill into and honor your own boundaries. And it's a very intuitive situation by situation thing. There's no hard and fast rules necessarily. I definitely do have inside of myself a hard line of what I will or will not allow in my home or to be felt. I don't want to have, yucky shit all up in my face or people yelling at me or, whatever, right? We all have those hard lines. And then outside of that is a really, honestly, a gray zone of flexibility and situation by situation by situation. The most important thing is tuning in and feeling into honoring what it is that you truly desire and how it is that you want to feel. And working through the fear triggers that are coming up, the stories that are coming up about why you can't have that or what you need to be doing because of social obligation or this is how it's always been done. And just feeling in and communicating that. And as we do this, as we take responsibility for our own boundaries, we will take our power back and we'll stop blaming everyone else around us for how we're feeling or not feeling. And as soon as we stop taking responsibility for other people's boundaries, we're going to stop operating in any sort of over-functioning or anxiety or codependency. And we can release all of that. So that being said, I want to wish you guys the best and happy holidays and really encourage you to find ways to love and approve and accept of yourself even more. Take all of this for what it's worth and use it to really expand your mind and your awareness around things. Never, ever use anything that I ever say or teach to beat yourself up or feel like you're wrong or bad or broken. You're not. You're just here on this journey, learning and growing and progressing. And I know it's going to be a game changer for you as you give yourself even more permission to set and hold these sacred boundaries and release other people to do that for themselves. I love you all, and I'll talk to you again really soon.